In this part, we'll add ranks to the server to show up nicely in chat. So, for instance, if we type hello and we're a VIP, it looks great. And if we reach a specific command during this episode, but I'll promptly enter it now, we can observe that, for instance, VIP possesses the following permissions. So, roughly, that's what we'll be doing in this episode. Of course, we'll also be combining ranks, setting up various designs, a lot of things will be happening, so let's get started. For the entirety of this process, we shall utilize the LuckPerms plugin, which can be conveniently downloaded from its official website. We proceed to download the most recent version available here. It is highly compatible with the vast majority of Minecraft versions, so you should not encounter any issues unless someone possesses an exceptionally archaic server. Subsequently, we have the Vault plugin. It is necessary for us to upload it into our files, particularly into the plugins directory, in order for it to function effectively with LuckPentasonic. It is also needed for things like chat, etc., so we install it. It's a sure thing. Additionally, another important aspect is Essentials X. I proceed to install Essentials X along with Essentials X Chat in order to effectively display those ranks within the chat interface. As you observed, I had that VIP prefix, which is precisely what these two plugins are designed for. I mean, not solely for that purpose, but in a broader sense, so we clearly download them here using these buttons. Nevertheless, if someone chooses not to utilize Essentials, that situation can arise and they might not wish to install it solely to use Essentials X Chat and have, for instance. For the design of the chat interface, you are able to utilize the LPC chat formatter. It originates from the developers of LuckPerms. It functions in a similar manner, enabling us to effectively format the chat. As you can see here, for example, the admin is displayed, meaning those colors, those nice things on the chat. So instead of Essentials, we can also use LPC, and that's okay. If you want to do it that way, feel free to do so. However, today I will use Essentials. I just always use it. And that's all regarding plugins. At this moment, I'm already present on the server and utilizing the command PL to verify the plugins. Everything appears to be green, which indicates that I have successfully uploaded all the plugins I previously mentioned into the designated plugins folder. Now we have the ability to observe what groups are accessible within this particular plugin, and the command LP group is utilized for this purpose. In general, LP is the prefix for commands in this plugin. Subsequently, we select what we wish to accomplish or modify, so in this scenario, we aim to edit groups. Groups are essentially ranks. We press space and it conveniently auto-completes, displaying the available ranks. I possess 4 since I personally created them. Those 3 were crafted by me. You will solely have default because the default rank is the one consistently added during the installation of LuckPens. It is the foundational rank that is essentially allocated to each and every new player who becomes a member of the server. Indeed, it operates in a manner akin to a player rank. However, it is officially designated as default. We prefer not to alter its name since that would introduce unnecessary complexity. It's an unnecessary complication and there's no point in getting too involved in this. We leave it as default, it's assigned to everyone, and we treat it as the player rank. And now, as you can see, when I input a period in the chat, there is absolutely nothing preceding my nickname, no rank at all, and when I unveil the commands to inspect players, which is LP as usual, we select what we intend to modify, which is the user, specifically the lethal user, and here is what we plan to do with them subsequently. Actually, I am interested in viewing his information, meaning detailed information regarding him, so in this information it indicates that I possess the default rank. As you can observe, I do not have any prefix or any design, so now we will proceed to add that. So initially we begin by entering the command LP group, and subsequently we opt for the default rank. Following that, we choose the meta option and proceed to configure the prefix by setting the prefix. At this point we establish its priority. We will address this aspect later when we handle the VIP rank. It essentially determines the significance of this prefix. Therefore, if we assign a VIP with a prefix value of 101, it will appear in place of a prefix with a value of 100, as 100 represents a lesser value, thus making it a less significant prefix, correct? I believe it is worthwhile to begin at 100. When you establish ranks that hold greater importance than the player, you assign a higher numerical value, and if the ranks are of lesser importance than the player, then you assign a lower numerical value. Therefore, 100, for example, signifies the central point. Alright, and at this stage we initiate by opening quotation marks, and within these quotation marks we define what the rank should be designated as. In this situation, we have the opportunity to use Minecraft colors, and we can also make use of those RGB curators that create these extended color strings. This will operate efficiently here as well, as long as it stays within those brackets. I plan to make use of the conventional Minecraft color palette in this particular case, and further inscribe player in bold typeface by employing the letter L. After Afterward, I will place a space, then reapply the color code, and this time utilize the letter A to correctly format the nickname. This is necessary because this prefix appears prior to the nickname, and subsequent to this prefix is the nickname itself, so if we, for example, if we were to leave it as is, it might potentially color the nickname to align with the player's designated color. I mean, you would need to test it, but I included an R to straightforwardly reset it, ensuring that our nickname remains white. Alright, I essentially pressed the enter key and it functions properly. We have successfully displayed in the chat what was configured, it appears exactly the way we desired it to. And now, whenever we type anything into the chat, we can indeed observe that I possess such a prefix. Furthermore, if we input the command that reveals information about me, we can see my prefix displayed there as well. And this is exactly the default rank. It is assigned to everyone who enters the server, and we make it into a player rank just visually, but in the commands we still remember that it is default. There's no need to create a new rank called player that serves the role of the default, because the default is already assigned to people, so there's no need to complicate things, we just make the player this way. And if we were genuinely interested in the configuration settings of these prefixes for the default rank, we can utilize meta information, and here the prefix is displayed along with its assigned weight, which we have set to 100. And if we desire to clear everything because something went wrong, we use default meta clear, and then we will clear the prefix. I will configure it once more. Let's proceed. I consistently urge you, if you enjoy the content, to comment and subscribe to the channel, as it truly assists in its growth. If you haven't left anything yet, I'd be really grateful. Thanks. Well, excellent, the prefix has been configured and it appears quite nice. However, our player still cannot perform any actions on the server, which is somewhat disappointing. Now we can utilize the LP group command once again, specifically default, to establish a permission, which means permission. Here, naturally, for every space utilized, there are numerous hints available, so if you forget something, you can conveniently look it up. Therefore, we configure the permission set, and subsequently, we select the specific permission we wish to assign, such as Essentials under chest, enabling someone to open the under chest utilizing a command. We have the capability to determine if it should be negated, which implies prohibiting this permission, or configured to true to permit it. So press enter, and it confirms that we have successfully configured this permission. When we enter LP group default permission info, because we want to see the info about the permission, we have a list of permissions and we see this permission added here. And now, in the event that we desire to eliminate this particular permission, we input LP group default permission unset and enter the identical essentials under chest, and subsequently the permission is effectively removed. Certainly. Now let's proceed to establish a brand new rank, similar to the VIP rank that I have previously created here. Therefore, let's initiate the creation of a new rank by executing the command to create a group, and we shall designate it as supporter, as I am immensely appreciative of the supporters for their invaluable assistance in helping me expand this channel. You can now observe them on the display with much admiration. If you have an interest in becoming a supporter, kindly check out the button provided below and we shall return to the commentary. Perfectly inserted. Therefore, here's the command, LP create group supporter. We press enter, and subsequently the group is successfully created. Now we already have the supporter group listed, and we can proceed to do what I previously did with the default group, which encompasses the permissions, metadata, prefixes, and all these commands function in the same manner, so I won't reiterate it, but we could certainly set this up for the supporter group. And if we desired to eliminate the supporter group, we would input the command LP delete group supporter, and then press enter, and subsequently, the group is effectively deleted. Alright, so we remain as a player, and perhaps you might wish to assign someone a rank, which is a fairly typical scenario, so now I'll demonstrate how to elevate yourself to a VIP status from a player, simply by setting me as a VIP. So we input the command LP user little parent set VIP. For instance, VIP. It's important to mention that this is a command I seldom utilized. I prefer to accomplish it using permissions, and we will address that shortly, but first, I'll demonstrate that it indeed functions. We currently have a VIP status. For instance, we can now proceed to clear it. All my ranks have been cleared. We have a player again. Okay. What occurred? So I previously mentioned that I prefer utilizing permissions because you can also allocate ranks using permissions, given that in LuckPermissions everything functions as a permission, even ranks, which is quite intriguing and beneficial. Thus, we simply establish a permission for myself permission set, and this permission is group.rankName, which is .whip, and you observe I possess the whip rank, so it's quite straightforward, everything operates smoothly, and we can also unset this permission group.whip. There you go, player, but if I had a VIP assigned through permission, we can still clear it with the command little parent clear. So it is indeed compatible and it functions harmoniously. However, we do not wish to allocate all ranks indefinitely, as that was a permanent assignment, we merely granted permission. which essentially indicates that if an individual has it allocated, they will possess the rank, so it's not always ideal because occasionally we desire to grant it for a specific duration, so we type LP user lethal permission set temp, which stands for set temporary or for a brief period. It is essential to understand the process of writing. Group.yp, we configure it to true. And for instance, 30 days. In this context, you have the ability to specify minutes, days, months, and so forth, but let's choose 30 days. Press enter. And we can see that I assigned myself this permission for 4 weeks and 2 days, and that's nice, and you can see that I have VIP again. If we navigate into LP user lethal's permission information, or even just info, we can observe that we possess the default rank. This player does not disappear, they remain in the background because we require the permission for that rank. However, there is also VIP, which endures for 4 weeks, 1 day, 23 hours, and so forth. And an intriguing aspect that can be observed, which I previously mentioned, is the numeral 100 adjacent to the prefix, which is quite noticeable here. When we input meta information next to my nickname, we observe that the player possesses a value of 100, whereas VIP holds a value of under 1, thus VIP is prominently displayed in the chat. If we were to revisit the command that initially established the player's prefix and opted for the numeral 102, then the player would indeed be prominently displayed in the chat. Furthermore, if I were to examine my own prefixes, we would observe that the player prevails due to possessing a superior numerical value. This is essentially what this is about, the significance of this metadata if it can be articulated in that manner. If we have a VIP status that is designated for a particular duration such as 4 weeks and we wish to remove it, we proceed by entering the command LP user lethal permission unset temporary, which indicates that standard permissions have been unset. At this juncture, we input ascent temporary group VIP. Let's observe if it functions properly. It indeed functioned, so there's no necessity to specify a duration. Simply unset the temporary group whip. And now upon verification, the VIP status is no longer present. And now we have a crucial matter to address, because let's assume you've established some foundational permissions for a player and more extensive permissions for a VIP. Now, to prevent duplicating all the permissions the player possessed to the VIP, so the VIP can simply exist at the spawn and perform whatever actions a player should undertake, and then what a VIP is expected to do, you can implement a system of inheritance. So, you set up the basic permissions for the player. The VIP receives supplementary permissions and inherits from the player, thus it also possesses the fundamental permissions, implying it essentially borrows them from the player. The configuration should be structured in a manner where we have the player, the VIP inherits from the player, VIP plus inherits from the VIP, Elite inherits from VIP plus, and so on and so forth. In straightforward terms, the greater the rank, the more extensive permissions it acquires, and it fundamentally inherits from almost the topmost rank. I trust you comprehend this. In any event, practically speaking, LP group VIP parent set default. Alright, and at this point, our VIP possesses the player's permissions. If we were to have, for instance, a rank such as Elite and we set its parent to VIP, then the Elite rank inherits VIP permissions. Since VIP already has the player's permissions, everything functions correctly and everyone obtains what they require, which is precisely our focus. And it's quite nice because in a few minutes we have all the most important things that will allow you to do pretty much everything with permissions on your server, but maybe the chat doesn't suit you, maybe the chat doesn't look like mine, so we'll go into the files. At this point, by navigating into the files, we shall access the plugins directory, and within this plugins directory we will locate the essentials folder in order to modify its configuration files. Alright, we currently have essentials and proceed to access the primary configuration file. If you have LPC, you simply enter the LPC configuration. Now, within this main configuration, we scroll down extensively until we reach a section titled Essentials X Chat, and within this section, we encounter the chat formatting, which signifies it formats to exhibit the display name. The display name constitutes a variable, as we have elaborated upon here, that exhibits the player's chosen nickname alongside their prefix. We could deconstruct it into fundamental components, such as presenting the username, and for instance, displaying the prefix independently doesn't truly make much sense because the display name already accomplishes that for us within a single variable. So that's essentially how it appears. Additionally, we have the message, which is merely the message that the player transmits. And what is the entire purpose of this? It's that we have the capability to insert some extra symbols here, such as substituting the colon with an arrow, or for instance, incorporating some color prior to the message. And at this particular moment, when we proceed to enter into the server and subsequently reload the essentials, we are able to observe that as a player, I possess the arrow that I inserted, and I am writing in a red color, so it functions quite straightforwardly in that manner. We format the chat, and we can also experiment with formatting based on rank, so we have a rank, perhaps not administrator, more like elite, or we've already discussed VIP, so let's proceed with VIP. And the VIP, as an illustration, will replicate this format, will write in a gold color, and will possess perhaps 3 arrows. Completely unnecessary, but let's proceed with it. And currently we have Essentials reloaded. As a VIP member, I should be writing in this particular style, using a golden color and having 3 arrows. Only the player prefix has remained because we were experimenting with the prefix weight, which is the core issue. For clarity, we will quickly fix it just to be sure. And it functions effectively. So in this section we have the capability to enumerate all the rank names and provide them with specific formatting if necessary, such as altering their color or something similar to that. And that's mainly it for these configurations. You do the same actions in LPC. An interesting part is the LP editor, a visual editor for those tasks I was doing, so we don't need to type commands, we can just click. We simply click on the link that is generated here in the chat. I have it here. Now, under this link, a page is displayed for us. We have a command here that we need to paste into the chat, so I paste it. Enter. At this moment, our editor is establishing a connection to the server. And we have, for instance. Here are all of our groups. We have the ability to edit their permissions by typing right here. There you go, I type add and it functions properly. We have the capability to change them to false quite swiftly. We can configure, for instance, their duration. We also have users available here that we have the capability to edit, so essentially we can accomplish practically everything here. For instance, you have the capability to add parent roles as well. Right here, you can observe that VIP has a default setting and Elite has VIP as its parent, so all of this configuration can be managed here. It might be more intuitive for some, but in numerous cases, utilizing a command is simply faster and more efficient, so I tend to stick with commands. Nonetheless, if someone prefers this method, it's quite effective. And one additional point, it won't apply automatically. We need to click Apply in the top right corner. Then, when we enter the server, we should see in the chat what has changed and if anything has changed at all. And I made those changes, and it actually works. And that would be everything for now. We have a fully functioning chat system and operational permissions. Naturally, you assign permissions based on your additional plugins. It is more of an individual consideration regarding which plugins we need to incorporate. I would simply like to mention that numerous plugins now automatically incorporate these fundamental commands and you have to manage that. Nevertheless, plugins such as Essentials and various others necessitate you to assign specific permissions to certain groups, or if we wish to provide something beyond the player's basic level to a VIP, we utilize these permission commands, add them, and effectively construct our server. And that's it for this segment.